Well, good morning, guys. Welcome to another stream by Thyalwaysseek, aka D Smith. And hello, everybody who's joined me. Good morning to you guys over, well, here in Australia. Good evening to you guys over there in the US. And good night, because it's later, over to you guys in Europe. So today we are going to be discussing, I thought, the Trinity. One of those symbols that is absolutely bastardized by the church, absolutely misinterpreted, and also a way that the church can deceive the congregation into worshipping the Son as equal to the Father. So I thought it was absolutely time that we covered the Trinity, because it's one of those symbols that is, hi Chris, hi Shannon, hello Saturnian Sun. Yes, it will be a very interesting stream today, you can be sure of that. So the Trinity, as I was saying, very, very in-depth symbol, and it has multiple layers to it. And this is the language of symbolism and what we have to understand about symbols. Symbols are not static. They're not just relaying one piece of information or one layer of information. They basically encompass a whole range of ideas, and that's why they've been given a symbol, because it's very hard to sometimes relay information through word. It's much easier to look to a symbol and have an understanding of what that symbol encompasses as a whole, and this is what the Trinity does, because it just has so many different layers to it. So today we're going to try and delve into all of those layers. And as always, you guys need to go out and research further into what we discuss in this show and find more understanding of the different layers regarding the symbol of the Trinity. So, okay, now let's just first go through a few of the layers of this symbol. But before we do that, guys, actually, I just did want to actually cover some events that are going on around the planet before we delve into this. And I think I'll do this before we start every stream, because, you know, we're in these insane times where, you know, things are just escalating so quickly now. I mean, if we could actually imagine, those of you who were actually, you know, observing events and waking up back in 2011 and 2012, if we could actually imagine, you know, 2012 and, you know, 2011 and 2012 today in these times, I mean, it would just be insane, because back there it was very subtle, and those of us who were actually starting to observe and who were waking up back then, you know, it was so subtle that you really had to be paying attention. And that was why when you actually wanted to talk to other people, and a lot of us were very naive back then, because we actually believed that it wasn't going to be so difficult to wake up other people. You know, you would literally just have to tell them what you discovered, and then they would be like, wow, and yeah, and want to go and look into everything that you were talking about. But we soon realized that most people just, you know, either didn't have the ability to comprehend what we were talking about, or just did not want to wake up. And unfortunately, it was pretty much the latter. Most people do not want to wake up. And this is a problem that a lot of people who have woken up in the last couple of years have now started to identify. a few of them are still deluding themselves that there's going to be this mass awakening. And I do see a lot of people repeat that there's a mass awakening happening right now. Well, every time you kind of want to believe that, because it's a very attractive belief to think that everyone is waking up and there's this mass awakening and this is what's happened over the last 2 years. Just go and have a look at how many views a kitten video gets, as opposed to a video regarding this type of information. Go and have a look at how many views a Kardashian video gets, in regard, compared to one of these videos. So that gives you an idea of where the mentality and the intellect of humanity is at. And so what happens is people that are starting to wake up and identify, that there's something kind of not right and there's something going on and that we're being lied to, we all gravitate to certain type of information, normally alternative news channels, and normally those subjects that are being discussed. And so it's easy to fool ourselves into believing, because there is a lot of us gravitating to these same types of videos and this same type of content, across all the social media platforms, that equates to lots of people waking up, when really it's very, very small. I mean, it's a drop in the ocean when you look at the grand scheme of things, of the billions of people on the planet. So that's why you have to get real and understand that no, not a lot of people are waking up. And for those of you who woke up in the last couple of years because of the pandemic, they're actually waking us up, or waking humanity up. That was done on purpose, okay? They want you to understand that they're evil. They're saying, wake up now, time to wake up. And so that's why we've had such a huge number of people joining those who have already been awake for the last 10 years. And it's interesting because a lot of these people that have woken up in the last 2 years, and let's say it's almost 3 years now since they started playing out that card, they seem to think that they've actually they have possession of the truth, because they found out that the government were evil, when really that's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, you have to keep seeking. That's how you begin to wake up, is you identify that there's something wrong. You identify that the government are lying to us. You identify that the system is corrupt. And then you go looking as to the causation of that, the causal effects of that. Why are they evil? Why are they lying to us? Why are they doing this to us? And that's when you're supposed to go and research further. Unfortunately, most people don't research any further than Joe Rogan, or Alex Jones, or any other mouthpiece, controlled opposition mouthpiece that's been put there to basically steer those who have just started waking up down a certain path, to prevent them from going and researching further, because they just go, Saturnian Sun, if you're just here to basically chatter, you will be removed from the discussion, okay? It's really distracting to other people who are here to actually discuss knowledge when someone just chatters, okay? And the first sign of an intelligent person who is waking up is that they stop chatting and they start listening. So if, people just want to come to this stream to either distract, and, I am paranoid, I admit, after doing this for 10 years, look, actually, I say 10 years, it's been longer, okay, and having my channel attacked, being attacked personally myself, being stalked, being hated on, had videos made about me, I do defer straight away to the defense. So just know that. I mean, if I get any feeling that someone is here and their intentions aren't pure, and that could be accidental because perhaps you are just, just not understanding how we kind of behave in our streams and our discussions, then you may just be culled unexpectedly. Well, it's, what did you say? You're just chatting. I just keep seeing, I just don't want this to become a chattering, you know, and so it's not that I'm attacking you, it's just that I'm identifying that you're, you know, here to maybe chat between everybody here instead of kind of listen and only kind of ask questions when you need more information, because that's what we're here for. We're a study group. We're not a chat group. And so those who come to the stream are here to ask questions to further their understanding of the knowledge, not just to chatter amongst each other. And I mean, I'm not saying that you can't chat at all. I'm just saying when that becomes the main you know, discussion in the chat room, then there's something, you know, there's something that we need to adjust, because, you know, we're not just a normal stream where people come along and just give their opinion about things, okay? I'm sick of opinion. It's white noise. And this is why I say when you join our discussion group on MeWe, that if you don't actually have anything of a background in understanding and researching the knowledge that we actually research and have spent our time researching over the past decade, then what do you have to contribute other than your opinion? And that's all I'm saying about it. So there are moderators now. I have made moderators for our chat, and we will be removing anybody that we feel is not conducive to the study environment and the research and knowledge-seeking environment that we want to basically create within these chat rooms. Look, we do want to make it a place where we can all also feel that we belong to a community too. So it is important too that we do have that interaction. I'm not saying that we can't do that at all. I'm just saying that we need to moderate it in a way that it's not becoming the majority of our discussion. Anyway, I hope I've covered myself there. So let's go back over to what we were talking about before, about people waking up in the last couple of years who now think they have possession of the truth, so they don't need to find out anything else because they've discovered Joe Rogan, they've discovered Alex Jones, they've discovered Jordan Peterson, you know, they've discovered Russell Brand, you know, they've discovered one of the myriad of controlled opposition shills out there that are telling them everything they want to hear and are basically being their voice, which is what a controlled opposition shill is. It's basically giving the masses, you know, who are waking up, the feeling that they have someone powerful who has a voice for them, and so therefore it gives them hope that because this person who is powerful has a voice for them, that's going to translate into things changing. But all it does is encourage apathy. Okay, so that's why controlled opposition exists. It encourages apathy in the people who are listening to these shills because they think, well, hey, it's handled, you know. This guy gets it, you know, and he's our voice, you know. And I mean, they even have controlled opposition in politicians, the UN, you know. There's a couple of voices who were speaking out in the UN or in, you know, in the political realm, who appeared to be on our side because they were, you know, pushing back against what was happening. And again, this is just controlled opposition. So be careful that you aren't being caught up in controlled opposition. You know, once you've discovered that we are in a time that the system is completely corrupted, and that is every single part of the system is corrupted, and that is the government, the religious organisations, the education sector, media. I mean, they've covered all their bases, guys. They've literally covered all their bases. You know, there is nothing that isn't infiltrated by the Jesuits and corrupted, because all roads really do go to Rome. Yep, they all go back there. And they've been in continuous power for at least 800 to 1,000 years. Yes, they have been in power that long, and we know this, and yet people can't seem to put two and two together because they're too busy chasing all of these controlled opposition shills and all of these distractions that they put out there for everybody to basically continue to be confused about. So just be aware that once you've identified that there is corruption in the system, and the level of corruption, because really the level of corruption that it takes to ensure that humanity is completely brainwashed and powerless is just almost incomprehensible. It's really something that takes you a bit to process, because when you realize that every bit of our system is corrupted, like, you know, the banking system, the real estate system, the housing system, the share markets. I mean, how many people know that the share market is completely corrupted and manipulated, and yet people still think that they can make money, you know, in the markets, in the material world. I mean, how many truthers are data analysts? You know, and, you know, I mean, Lynette Zhang, looking at you, love. You know, she sits there talking about how, you know, it's so corrupted. And yes, she has identified that it is corrupted, and she is very good at what she does. And which is why I like to listen to people like Zhang. But she gets to me now. I can't listen to her anymore because she's so delusional. And I don't know if it's intentional that she's actually there as a controlled opposition shill. I don't think she is. But look, I don't know. Some of them are very good. I mean, that's why they're controlled opposition shills. You're not supposed to know they are. So that's why some of them are very good at what they do. But her basic, you know, what she basically tells people is go and get communities, go and plant a garden, you know, go and get gold, buy your gold from me, you know, and then you can barter with each other with gold. You know, really, when society collapses, do you think we're really going to be planting gardens? Really? We're going to be planting gardens and we're going to be interacting with each other on that level, are we? All peacefully, and we're going to go down over there and see Joe who's got some tomatoes, and we're going to swap our lettuce for his tomatoes. And really, because you know what you're going to be doing if you have a beautiful garden and a vegetable patch? You're going to be defending it with your life and the lives of your family. And she never says that. And you'll always find this about these type of truthers, right? These alternative channels that give you all this information. They always stop at going a little bit too far, where they start telling you the reality of the situation and how you will literally be fighting for your life. Because when people are hungry, they turn into animals, literally turn into animals. And they will be picking off the people that have been hoarding all of their, you know, food and goods. And these people that are preppers, they brag about it too. Have you noticed that preppers like to brag to everybody? You go to a prepper channel, and they literally all brag to each other about how much they've been prepping. Now, do you think that just stops at social media, or do you think that they try and help other people, neighbours, by telling them that you should be prepping like me, or help family members, you know, and tell them you should be prepping like me? Look at all the stuff, you know, look at me. I've been doing all of this. You should be doing that too. And these people are just setting themselves up to be targets and setting themselves up to fail, because when people are hungry, they are desperate. And, you know, they will take you out to get what you have. So if you're prepping, if you are gathering supplies, then you actually need to not tell anybody about that. And all of these people who delude themselves on these prepping channels that there's going to be some type of utopia where all of these preppers make this community and they're all helping each other, you're just setting yourself up for failure. So, and a lot of these prepping channels are also controlled opposition shills. And a lot of these people who are bragging about their preps, well, you know what, when the food shortages start, before it gets to the level where we're actually, you know, experiencing the zombie apocalypse and everyone is actually fighting for their lives, it's not going to descend into that straight away, because they're going to use the food shortages as a way to take control of us completely and play that card out. And so, you know, there is an executive order, and I'm pretty sure it was brought in by Obama, and I have posted this a couple of times, and I will actually find it and post it underneath the channel after I finish the stream. But basically there's an executive order that they can actually come and take your preps. They can actually come and remove all of your preps, everything that you have, to distribute among the community, to distribute as they see fit. So everyone who is bragging about having this, you know, hoard of food and medicine and, you know, ammo and whatever else it is, they're just literally putting themselves on the radar for when they basically roll out that executive order. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's part of the script and how they're going to play it out, and why they are literally encouraging people to prep. I mean, we even see there's like reality TV shows now and documentaries about preppers. So it's kind of become a little bit of a mainstream thing too. And this just encourages preppers to be more public about themselves, because they feel that it is something that, you know, gives them a bit of notoriety. So again, you know, they're setting themselves up for failure. All right, so let's move on to some of these events that we've been seeing happening over the last week. So there's been a couple that have come to mind. We've seen that the death toll for the quake is up around, I think, 25,000 now, guys. So pretty bad quake and very significant. I've even seen some footage of a complete, what do you call it, like a crack through the Earth's surface, where the plates have moved, and there's this one continuous fault line that you can now see, where it's kind of created this like crevice, and showing that we are getting a lot of really big movement now. So yeah, I expect that death toll is going to continue to rise, and I really feel sorry for the people over in Syria, because, you know, they are kind of being forgotten. Like, everything's about Turkey, and everyone's forgetting that Syria is already experiencing a lot of misery and hardship and struggle because of the sanctions that are on them, because of the war that's been enacted on them, and now they've got to deal with this. So my heart really goes out to the people of Syria, because I think that they are really, really doing it tough, probably more than any other culture right now. They are not just experiencing, you know, food shortages as, you know, some countries in Africa are. And as somebody pointed out to me that in my last video, that they were sad that when I spoke of food shortages, that I was only speaking of African countries, and I, you know, didn't mention any other countries experiencing food shortages like Ukraine. Yeah, well, what about Russia? Yeah, people over in Russia are in poverty as well, and people over in Moldova, yeah, poverty for them too. I mean, there are a lot of countries that are experiencing, you know, hunger and poverty on a very, very deep level. The reason I brought up what was happening over in Africa is because there was a particular case, and I was actually incorrect when I said it was Eritrea. It was actually Yemen that I was talking, was meaning when they were they blockaded the port, and they blockaded the port completely so that no food or medical aid could get through to the people there, especially the children. And the children were not only suffering from a lack of food, but also they couldn't get medication to ease their suffering, not even just paracetamol or anything like that to ease their suffering and their pain. So the only reason I was speaking about African countries is because that was the example that I was giving. It doesn't mean that I'm negating that we are experiencing food shortages in white countries too, like Ukraine and over in Europe, because there are some very, very poor countries over in Europe too. So, you know, don't assume just because I don't run off a full list of every country in the world who is experiencing hunger or food shortages that I'm somehow ignoring them, because I'm not. But I just did want to make a special mention for Syria, because I do believe that they are really, really suffering, and the media are just really not focusing on them. They're just doing a story about them here and there, but other than that, it's all about Turkey, who are also suffering. Don't think for 1 minute I'm taking that away from them, but I'm just saying the spotlight should be on both countries, not just Turkey, and that they are going to be suffering over in those countries for a very long time to come, easily for the next, you know, 6 months to a year, before they can even get any semblance of normalcy back into their lives. Because, I mean, these people have got nowhere to live, you know, and of all the other distractions and all the other, you know, different cards that they're trying to play on us at the moment, I don't think things are going to get any better for the people of Turkey and Syria. So that is sad. Now, the other thing I wanted to also make a mention of is that we're starting to see the Project Bluebeam card start playing out again. They're starting with the alien UFO psyops again. We see this with this object that they shot down over Alaska, you know, when they were trying to infer that it was something that was unusual, and, you know, they couldn't quite say what it was. There's no information on what it was that they shot down. It was just a cylindrical object. You know, you can just see the way they start wording these things, that they are definitely trying to psychologically condition the masses. That's what it is, and they do it all the time. So what will happen, you'll notice this, is that suddenly they'll start talking all about you know, UFOs and aliens and all of this type of you know, subject matter, and they'll bring it up over the space of, like, say, a month, maybe 2 to 3 weeks, and they'll bring out, you know, that some Air Force, you know, high up military Air Force officer has spoken out about some files that they want to release, and that maybe there's some files that are going to be released soon, and they start speaking about it in that way, you know, and they are conditioning the masses to start accepting the possibility that UFOs and aliens are real. And the fact is that UFOs and aliens, while they may be actually real and exist somewhere in our universe, they are not visiting our planet, and nor have visited our planet. And so none of the paintings, none of the monuments and structures that were built in ancient times are because aliens have come here and actually built these structures, okay, or seeded humanity, and or any of that, which is all where all that Nibiru nonsense also comes from. Zachariah Sitchin, he was a complete fraud, and was one of the shills that was pushing this whole idea of this you know, alien interaction with us. So you can see that starting to happen again. They had some strange, like, beams of light over Hawaii, and they still can't understand what it was. They think it was a Chinese satellite. They don't know. So they're going between this whole, is it really China? Is it really Russia doing this? Or is it something else that we don't really understand? So they're kind of trying to curate this confusion within the psychological, you know, the psychological mindset of the population, the hive mind, I like to call it, because that's how we're controlled collectively, like by a hive mind. Everyone in the majority decides how our reality is going to actually be expressed on the physical plane. And at the moment, because the majority are all brainwashed, we're living their reality. They've sucked us in to that reality. And those who are conditioning the mindset of the masses are the ones who control the media. They control the religious organizations. They control the educational institutes. And you can see how when they just have those sectors of our society completely infiltrated and have complete power over what they put in the minds of the masses, how easy it is to control us. And I always say that the day that we lost the battle was the day that the first television set was turned on in somebody's household. That was the day that it was all over for us, because before then we were still fragmented enough that we didn't get sucked into their propaganda as easily. They really just had the print media. But once they could visually start to propagandize the masses and fill their heads with anything that they wanted, well, that was pretty much, the end for us as a society. And it just, basically snowballed to where we are now. And now we actually program, that's right, tag, programming, and, even television, television. I mean, I'm not one for this wordplay because it can be so easy manipulated, and people grab words out of the English language and they can try and skew it and manipulate that word to mean anything that they want. But there are some words that they definitely are mocking us with, and television is one of them. So here we are right now with this, complete control. Our faces are literally stuck to our cell phones, our devices, our computers, 24/7 almost. I mean, if we weren't having to go to sleep for, 6 to 8 hours a day, I'm sure that our faces would be still on those devices. So this is where we're at. They've got complete control of the hive mind. So keep watching out for this this psyops, because it looks like they're starting to play this alien UFO psyops out again. And I'm sure that it's going to culminate in some maybe holographic technology that they are going to play on the masses. I mean, it might not, it may not evolve into something where it's absolutely, there's an alien landing, but it could be just enough, again, to put doubt in the minds of the masses. They could just be, play certain holographic, things up in the sky just enough to freak them out, and really take it no further, because, the power of suggestion is just as powerful. And that's pretty much what they do a lot of the time, because it allows people to then ferment what they want them to believe in their own minds and solidify it, because, that suggestion becomes a belief to them, because there's not enough for them to dismiss it or accept it. So, they normally accept it. And as I've said too, when we experience the illumination, when that time comes upon humanity, and we are basically then all truths will be revealed. The Bible says that, many quotes, even Buddhism, the truths will be revealed, and mankind will know the divine amongst them. I'm sure that a lot of people who have been sucked into the alien psyops will literally think that those people who have a different appearance to others, based on their divine portion, will actually be seen as aliens and be feared as well. So I'm sure they've got their sights set on that as well. And lastly, I just wanted to also make you guys aware of this, and I'm sure you probably are aware, because I know you guys who join my stream, you're pretty clued on to what's going on anyway. But I've noticed this whole, this new kind of, what should I call it? It's like this new fad, I suppose, where it's all about setting up the males against the females in these talk shows. One's called Pearly Things, or Just Pearly Things, where this woman gets on these feminists, and then she gets on these guys, and basically they go at it. Andrew Tate was a big part of this psyops as well, and it's this, basically they're trying to divide the sexes, divide the genders, male against female, and they're trying to get the males to hate the females, and they're trying to get the females to hate the males. They tell the females that the males have been oppressing them, and they tell the males that the females are hoes, and then they just basically allow the two sides to go at it. So I somehow found myself on that side of YouTube the other day. The algorithms brought me there after looking at one video, and then the next minute I just started realizing that there is a real concerted effort to, you know, divide us. So we really have to be aware of that. And a lot of these people that are playing into it, it feels good in the moment that they're playing into it, but it really is just seeking to, keep us separated. And that's right, keep us separated from our significant other. Because you know why? We are weaker when we don't come together in that way, because we are at our most powerful when the male and the female come together and our characteristics come together in a way that we basically enhance each other's power and strengths. And we do that by bringing out the best in each other. And so everything's polarity, and we can either bring out the best in each other, or we can bring out the worst in each other. And what they're trying to do now is get us to bring out the worst in each other. And now I do just want to make one more mention, and I'm going to defend the modern woman at the moment. When, look, normally I cringe and I detest modern femininity and the modern female. In fact, there is probably no more femininity in the female. She's tried so hard to be equal to the male that she has emasculated herself and now holds herself in the same way as a male holds himself, and she's completely neglected, not only neglected, but she's actively sought to remove her femininity and seen it as a weakness, and it is just not. It is just a different characteristic of the human being as a whole. And so, you know, I've also been one of those people who have spoken out about feminism, modern feminism, and feminism in general is just not a good thing. It was there to basically create cracks in between the male and female relationship to start with. I'm not saying that females haven't had it hard in stages of history, but it wasn't always like that. You know, back in the times of ancient Greece and ancient Egypt, females were honoured, okay, intellectually, as well as the other attributes that they encompass with their gender. But the modern female today, you know, she's pretty much lost her way. But, you know, I'm not going to sit back and just allow the modern female to be attacked without all of us taking some responsibility and where we are right now. And, you know, think about these younger generations of females and think about what has been filling their heads for the last, you know, 2 generations, okay? And then you wonder why they walk around as, you know, the proud slut or the hoe, because they've been told that that's empowering. They've been brainwashed to believe that's empowering. And that started back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So all of these older guys, you know, I'm speaking to you, older guys, you know, say 50, 45, 50 plus, who are on these channels, these chat shows in the comments, you know, having a go at all these females and these young females. You know, maybe you went through a bad divorce, you're bitter, whatever. But you, back in the 80s or the 70s, didn't want the traditional woman, okay? The traditional woman was boring, unexciting. You know, you guys wanted the loose woman, the easy woman, the one that you could lay, you know, the slut, you know. And so when women identified that the traditional woman was not what men were after, they began to change their behaviours to become more attractive to men, okay? And so here we are now with, you know, 3 generations later, a group of modern females who encompass, you know, the loose, easy woman. She's a proud slut. She wants to have as much sex as a male because apparently that's empowering. She wants to strut around with her ass hanging out and her tits hanging out because apparently that's, you know, also empowering. And I will be derogatory when I speak about women like that because they are being derogatory to our gender. And so I won't afford them the respect when that's how they act. You know, and I will label them tits and ass. But they are a product of our social engineering that goes back 30, 40 years. So we have to identify that too. And older guys need to identify that. And so these young girls are just actually a product of everything that we were being socially engineered with back in the 80s. I mean, have you watched Grease? I mean, actually watched Grease. That everyone, like, you know, elevated Olivia Newton-John. She was the darling. Have you seen that movie and what it really means? It means they literally was saying that the pure girl, the traditional girl, was rejected, was ridiculed, and they champion and elevate the slut, the whore, the easy girl that wore the leather in the end. And remember, that's when they came together and they were so happy because, you know, she turned into a slut. So anyway, that was just my little bee in my bonnet that I had to get out because I just recognize that this is what's happening, is that we've got this whole section of society now attacking the other section of society. And I can see both sides to the conflict now. I probably was one of those that was a little bit attacky on these modern feminists. But then when I really thought about it and I thought about the causal, you know, influences, and that's really so helpful, guys, when you're researching into something, to always go back to the causal influences of stuff, because that's when you can kind of see where it originated. And that's when I realized, well, hang on a minute. This is where it all originated, way back then when traditional girls were being shunned and were being, you know, they're the ones that were at the side of the dance floor that nobody was asking to dance because they weren't fun. You know, they were pure. They were, you know, honoring themselves and not easy, but the other ones were easy and, you know, not respecting themselves. So we have to acknowledge that. We've all been brainwashed. We've all been socially engineered to some level. And even me, I was also a victim of it, you know, and it's only that you just have to slowly remove all of that social engineering that's happened since you were a little baby, all the way up to now. All right, so I've covered all of that. I don't think there's really anything more. You guys, is there anything else that you saw happen in the last week that you'd want me to discuss or give my observations about? I can't really think of anything that comes to mind that really sticks in my mind other than those kind of different cards that they were been playing with the alien psyops. And then the sun's actually started getting a lot more active again too. We had an X flare yesterday, and I have noticed that over the last easily 6 weeks now, that our top layer of atmosphere has been ionized every day. So that is telling me that you know, when your upper atmosphere is being electrically charged all the time, that has got to be playing out in other areas as well. So keep an eye on all the tectonic activity, the volcanic activity, because I really don't think that is going to remain quiet for too long. And I think the Turkey quake was really just the beginning of some very you know, a lot more escalation in those types of earth changes. All right, so let's move on to what this stream was supposed to be about, or is about, and I'll try not to tangent too much. So, the Trinity, that symbol that Christians, modern Christians, just don't seem to grasp because they've allowed their clergy to mumble some rubbish to them about how it makes Jesus and God the same, and they've not really looked into it any further. And so whenever you have a discussion with a modern Christian and you tell them, look, Jesus is not God the Father, they will normally reply to you with something about how you don't understand the Trinity. And that is how you can see Jesus as God the Father, because the Trinity. And that's pretty much where they leave it. They don't really go on anymore. And if they do, they waffle on about something that doesn't even make sense. I actually had this big, long discussion the other day with this Christian, and he commented you'll find that when you do have these discussions with these Christians, that they get so triggered they write you these War and Peace epic, long replies where they tell you in their own interpretation, what the verses mean and how it can be twisted into, God being God, Jesus being God the Father. So he actually wrote me this big long War and Peace epic reply. And normally I just say something and just don't even. And I thought, no, you know what? I'm going to actually copy and paste this into a Word document, and I'm going to go through every single point he made, and I'm going to actually address every single point he made with evidence to the contrary. And so I did that, and I posted it back to him, and then he got back to me and literally regurgitated exactly what he'd said before. And then I did it again, and I, went back and reiterated what I'd said to him with all in point form for everything he said. And then he came back again, and I just said to him that, why don't you actually address each and every point I make? Like what I'm doing to your points, I'm actually going in and addressing each of them and showing evidence to the contrary, whereas you're not doing that to me. You just keep repeating yourself, and you'll kind of see that that's the only way that they can argue their point, because they don't really have possession of knowledge, nor do they have any understanding of what they're actually discussing other than what their clergy have told them. So I'm hoping that these Christians may find this video. I doubt it. I doubt they'll even listen through to this part of the video. And, mostly they just call me. What did I get called the other day? I got called demonic. That my channel seemed very demonic. Oh, and I was demonic because I called this guy out for basically attacking Muslims. Just basically nothing, no reason, just decided he was going to attack a Muslim, and then he went and stalked my channel and said that I was demonic. Anyway, I am tangenting off again. I digress. So let's have a look at some of the different levels of the Trinity, because as I said, it encompasses a lot of different levels within that symbolism. So let's start with the divine power of God's mind, okay, or God, because God is the mental universe, God is the mind of the all. But if you look at the Hebrew symbol for Shin, and if you guys want to go and get Google Images up and just type in Hebrew symbol for Shin, and that's S-H-I-N, Shin, you'll see that that's a trinity. It's Kesa, which is will, intellect, and emotion. So those are the three actions contained in the mind of the all, according to Kabbalah and the Hebrew symbol of Shin. So that's, quite interesting. Even the look of the symbol, you can see it tells you a lot of information about what that symbol itself encompasses. So I would definitely suggest looking into that symbol of Shin, and definitely look into Kabbalah, because there is a lot of knowledge to be found in Kabbalah. Try to stay away from opinion and just go through and look at the understanding of the symbols related in the texts, okay, related in their purest form, rather than the rabbis, who a lot of them now, the modern rabbis, are all corrupted. Okay, now even the lower level ones are corrupted because they follow the higher level clergy, okay, and this is for all religions, all right. So even the lower level clergy are corrupted in ignorance. It's not that they have possession of the truth, because that is reserved for the higher level clergy. It's that they just repeat the interpretations, the canon that they are given from the higher level clergy. I mean, if you go to a church, any Christian church today, other than one that's maybe way out on, on the outer field, which I doubt are very many, because they would shut them down so quickly, for calling themselves Christian or whatever. They would infiltrate them and destroy them, whatever. But any Christian church that you attend, regardless of the sect of Christianity, those clergy will not be allowed to interpret the text in the way that they see the way that they feel the text should be interpreted. If they've been studying the text and they start to identify something that they think should be interpreted differently, they dare not move away from canon, because they will just be stripped of their their right to be a priest for that church and that congregation. It's just not allowed. So all you're getting are basically mouthpieces for evil, because it's the high-level clergy, and there are only a few, there wouldn't be many, that have the possession of the truths we're discussing today, that will never allow their congregation to understand those truths or to see beyond their ignorance. And so the clergy, the lower-level clergy, the lower-level rabbis, the lower-level clerics in Islam as well, they are just tools. They are not only tools, they're weapons of the higher-level clergy, the evil, and that seeks to keep their congregation ignorant. Right, so we've got Shin, that's one of the Trinity elements. The other Trinity is the mental, the spiritual, and the physical plane, and the mental and spiritual and physical aspects of who we are. So as I said, the soul can be broken down into three separate fragments, like three separate parts. We've got our intellect, which is seated in our soul, which is basically seated in our gut, which is why we have a gut feeling. And they have found the same types of neural network that's in our brain can be found in our heart and in our gut. And that is why we're all connected. Okay, so when your gut feels something, then it is processed through your heart and your mind. Okay. And you're supposed to come to an understanding of whether this is a good thing, a positive thing, or a negative thing. And your gut will usually tell you. If you feel anxiety, your gut is telling you it's a negative thing. If you feel, butterflies, your gut is telling you that it's a positive thing. And then either way, your mind will dismiss it or accept it. So you may feel butterflies for a certain person. And then your mind may accept that you want to further your experience in pursuit of that path towards that person, or your mind may close down and move towards an alternative route, and refuse that path. Because we have free will, and it's the same with anxiety. You may feel in relation to a situation or even a person, anxiety or something not right about them. Your mind may actually override that and say, what are you talking about? They're fine. Oh my God, they just told you that they were going to do this favor for you, or they were going to do this for you. Why you get this feeling that they're not a nice person, or they're not? And so you can either do that and override that feeling, or you can basically think to yourself, well, they're saying all the right things, but there's just something that doesn't feel right about that person, and I don't think I'm going to take them up on that job offer, or I'm going to accept that lift into town with them, or whatever. So that's basically the Trinity within us on that level as well, and within our environment, our entire universal environment can be broken down to the mental, the spiritual, and the physical as well. And of course there's different levels of that, and you'll see that in a lot of alchemical drawings, where it shows you that the ether moves down as it gets denser and denser and denser, and that's all due to vibration, the principle of vibration. And then it moves down and it solidifies into matter. Now, I did say I was going to do another Hermetic stream on the 7 principles of the universe, and I don't know if I will, because you know what, guys, I pretty much laid it out in a video that I will link the video underneath this stream, and I go into depth into each of the principles. And so that's one of those things I think as a student that you really should seek out yourself, rather than me just handing it to you. But I want you to notice how much I can actually connect what I'm talking about to a certain principle within those 7 principles. And that's why Hermetics is so important and is such a great structure to begin building your foundation on, because it's something you can weigh and measure everything against. So yeah, that's why you'll see me often relate back to, oh, that principle of vibration can that, the principle of correspondence, you know, and yeah, so I would recommend you go and watch that video where I've gone in depth into every single one of those 7 principles and kind of really explained it in a way that is easier for you to understand, and then you can actually take that and go and research further into the Hermetic texts. So yeah, so then another Trinity is God the Creator, the Divine Male, and the Divine Female. Now, I am going to do another stream on the divine race and the creation of divine male and divine female and the demigod. Or the gold, the silver, and the bronze races, because they're also in the 3 levels as well. So I will do that in another time, okay? There is a video I will also link underneath called What is the Christ? I did that in my Sacred Science of the Soul series. That goes into it a little bit more with the creation of the male, the female, and the demigod. So if you want to, you know, look into that further, I'll post that link underneath as well, and you can check that out. So that's another Trinity, is the God the Creator, the divine male, and the divine female, because when the soul is first created from the Creator, the soul is infused with mind, and it's also divided into 2 parts that split and then are birthed into the physical form, into an organic skin of each gender. So the soul has gender, and the mind has gender. Okay, again, principle of correspondence, principle of gender. We see that the soul, the minds of the 2 souls work together, and they have different skill sets. And then, of course, the soul itself is different, and it then is basically expressed in the physical body as a difference as well. And you can even see that in the roles of the male and the female. The male is the protector, the male builds the shelter, the male provides the food, and the female provides the hearth, you know. So basically she is the homemaker that creates the nest. Okay, so that will look after the male and the offspring, you know, cook the food that's brought home, keep the nest clean and operational, and that's her roles too. Does that encompass that is all she is? No, of course she's an intellect too, but they are the main roles that, when working together, create a healthy family unit. And that's what they've sought to destroy. Okay, and they've told the woman that her skill set is beneath her, is keeping her oppressed, when actually it's empowering her. That's where she finds her power. And, you know, even back in the day when, you know, women didn't try to equal men in the way they do today, you know, women still had a lot of control behind the scenes. You know, they had a lot of sway and influence behind the scenes. That is where their power is, because the male mind will bounce off the female mind, and she will see things in a situation that the male won't see, and the male will see things in a situation that the female won't see. So together they can actually work to see the full picture of any situation. And, you know, back in the days of the Persian Empire, a lot of females were strategists, were military strategists, because they're very good at strategizing and, you know, in that way as well. So the female mind is something that has its skill set as well. So yeah, so that's a Trinity there. And then the other Trinity is God the Creator, the divine female, and the demigod. So when the divine female is created from God, from the mind, you know, has emerged from God, within her soul is a seed. Okay, this is the divine female. Within her soul, when she was created, the demigod was already seeded from the mind of God. So imagine that you've got a soul that's created, it's together still, it's still fused together, and just as it emerges from the creator, it's fused together. Within the female soul, there is a seed of another soul. They split apart, then they are birthed onto the physical plane into their physical bodies, and then that seed grew within the womb of the divine female to be birthed onto the physical plane as the first link between the gods and mortal man. And that's why the demigod is so important, because the demigod is the chain, is the link between the gods and mortal man. And when we're in full illumination as a mankind is in full illumination as a species, as human beings, mortals would find it very difficult to fully understand the gods, because they are so different. They are literally seeded from the divine mind onto the physical plane. And so their connection to the gods is through the demigod, because he is more human than the gods. Though the gods are in human form because they're birthed onto the physical plane, the demigod has more mortal in him than the gods. So he is more a connection, a link to the gods, and they have more of a familiarity with the demigod than the gods, if I can explain it in that way. And I mean, it's kind of pretty strange to us to process this type of knowledge in these times when we aren't aware of the gods or the divine race. And when I say gods, I say with a little g. That's the difference, the gods and the god. It's not that there's polytheist, it's that the gods, it's just a name for them because they're divine, and it's just like they're the smaller gods of the main god, but there is only one prime creator. So all of those races that we're talking about, gods, weren't polytheists. They were just talking about the divine race as opposed to God the creator. And you'll find that even these cultures, like the Greek culture and the Hindus, they all have, even the Norse mythology, the Norse culture, they still all have their prime god. Even though they have their other gods, they still have their prime god, Zeus, Osiris, Odin, and Vishnu. They're the main god. And so what's happened is it's been misinterpreted that the divine race are actually they're calling them gods, and so they're being the historians, the archaeologists and historians, and all of those establishment mouthpieces that we look to tell us the truth, to tell us what to believe, have misinterpreted those texts. And how many historians do you think have gone cross-culture and studied every single ancient text and all the symbolism and the Kabbalah and the Rider-Waite tarot card and the Tree of Life in the Kabbalah, and understand all of that side of the information? No, none of them do. They read the text and then they just create their own interpretations based off what they want to believe, based off their opinion. And a lot of it is done on purpose, because of course they would never actually relate the truth to the students that they are supposedly teaching. So let's move on. And then we have another Trinity, is the divine male, the divine female, and the demigod. Okay, I don't really need to go into that anymore because I've just been explaining about the God creator, divine female, and the demigod, and that's a lot of now if you have a look at the photos that I am looping at the moment, you'll see I've put down a lot of how Eve is coming out the side of Adam, and you'll see in a lot of these symbolic paintings that she's got a rounded belly. Okay, and that is because some of this iconology or what do they call it? Iconography is actually relating knowledge. You know, some of back then, I mean, it was still that there was some sections of society that still had possession of the knowledge. Okay, they weren't completely stamped out yet because the Jesuits hadn't infiltrated everything. So this one here on the screen that was just there, she has a very pronounced belly, and you will see some of them have very pronounced bellies. So that again is showing that when Eve comes from Adam's rib, and again that is not literal, it is just showing you the process of creation. So that is even to do with the saying where Jesus says, I am the way, to God. Everything comes through me to get back to God. He's showing his link in the chain. He's showing that all the material world is in existence through his physicality. It's within his physicality, his elements, that everything else has come into being. Okay, and so it's the male is birthed, created first, and then the female comes through the male, and then from that time on everything comes through the female to be rebirthed back onto the physical plane. But that first creation, I'm talking when we were first created on this world, on God's kingdom, as a race, as a humanity, as a reflection, as a fragment of him, this is how the creation happened. The divine male first, which is why Jesus, the symbol of Jesus is so well known, because it's, even though there are other divine males, he is the first emanation, the first creation, the begotten from the mind of the all. And then from him the female was created in that process, and it would have probably been I don't know how it all played out at that time. I can only imagine, but I would say it would be like birth is when you see a female birth, and then we go to the law of correspondence, the principle of correspondence. It can sometimes be quick, I suppose, but it's normally a process that or an egg, and you do see Leda and the swan. Zeus impregnated Leda, the swan. I mean, this is all the same type of mythology, talking about how the divine female was impregnated by God the Creator, God the Father, to be birthed, to birth the demigods or the divine race, the demigods within the divine race onto the physical plane, and they came out in eggs. So yeah, it could be the egg, the egg situation. It could, where it takes time to grow and then seed, to flower. And we can see that in plants as well, that plants will have to spend a time where they are germinating before they flower. So that could be the way that it actually all, was, in the way that we were created, the divine were created. Again, I'm just speculating. I don't have any actual information that tells us how God actually seeded the divine onto the physical plane. I'm just telling you what the knowledge shows us, and it doesn't go into specifics. So all we can do is look at the corresponding creation that we see around us in nature, because the universe is fractal, and then we apply the principle of correspondence, and we can see it would be something along that way, in that way. So then we can go on to the divine race. Okay, we'll go away, victimhood. Nobody's asking you to stay here. And, what's going on here with let me just read what is going on. Moderators, are you having any issues with removing people? Because I did actually make you moderators. So I don't know if that's actually gone through properly with YouTube. I'm just wondering what's going on with the chat. There seems to be some arguing. And that's kind of not conducive with a learning environment. Okay, so it's 11:11. Yeah, I kind of felt 11:11 was missing it a little bit. Yeah, I think, okay. Thank you guys. Yeah, look, if we can't actually use this as a place to study, then really you're not welcome on the stream. Okay, I don't care if I've got 3 people listening to me. This is a place where we study and we learn. We don't bicker with opinion. And quite frankly, unless you've done, you know, a decade's worth of research and you've got something to back you up on your channel to show us of why you have your opinion and why you have your theory, then really it's not going to cut it in this chat. All right, so let's move on. So so the divine race also has 3 levels, okay? So just as, you know, you've got, you know, Jesus being the firstborn, well, there is a segment of the divine race, and they are the gold, the first of the divine race, and then, so they're 48, and then there are 48 tribes, and then there are 48 tribes of, hang on, just let me, oh, I'm terrible at maths. Let me have a look. So there's 288 in the divine race, and we divide that, oh, freaking hell, what are you doing? Sorry, guys, got my calculator out. Divided by 3. Right. Okay, and then 96 divided by 2. Right, I was right. I always do this. I doubt myself. So there are 48 tribes in each level of the divine race. You've got your gold, your silver, and your bronze. Your gold and your silver then produce the demigods, which become the 3rd level, which are the bronze. So the demigods are the bronze. And so there are 144 tribes and 288 individual divine, but as I said, there are different levels, and some of that 288 is also the demigods, which are part God and part divine, high level of divine portion within them, and divine and half mortal. Okay, so I hope I've described that pretty well. So I just want to also reiterate that I've kind of been a little bit slack, you know, within the last couple of months with the knowledge. I've kind of allowed myself to be distracted a little bit, and I'm right into craft at the moment. I know that sounds probably funny to you guys, but I kind of got back into my photography, and now I'm getting into dressmaking, and you know, I love craft. It's a great way for me to meditate. And I got caught up in that a little bit over the last, say, 6 months. And so I'm a bit rusty on some of these things. So it's good that I'm doing these streams, because I've realized, you know, what's important, because I just love talking about all of this stuff so much. And I forgot how much I love discussing all this and researching all this and looking into all this. And so a lot of this stuff is all just kind of coming back. And you know that Hebrew symbol that I was telling you about, Shin? Well, that was due to Lisa actually discussing some text that she found, and then it reminded me of Shin, which I'd completely forgotten about, and which is one of the main trinities, probably the first trinity, because it's describing the divine power of God when it splits into 3 rays, which is, you know, Kesser, will, intellect, and emotion. So yeah, sorry if I'm a bit rusty, and it is because I just haven't been as involved in all of this knowledge on a daily basis like I used to be. So I'm getting back into it, and really it is like riding a bike. You know, you start off a little bit rusty, but you never forget. You know, so it's still there. The main core of everything never leaves you. But yeah, you know, some of the little details you do sometimes forget, and you need to be reminded of. You might. Oh, you're into crochet, are you? Yeah, I was a little bit into macrame, believe it or not. I started doing a little bit of macrame too. But yes, it is good to have something that you can actually just release all of your day-to-day bullshit that we have to contend with, you know, your life of slavery and bills and all of those things that take away from you as a spiritual person. And it gets sometimes easy to be caught up in all of that. So it's really good to find a way. And I could never meditate. I am sorry. The whole New Age, cross your legs, meditate, you know, in the yogi position, I could never do it as much as I tried. And believe me, I tried because, like, you know, back in 2011, I was a little bit New Agey back then. And even a little bit in 2012, actually, I was still quite, had a lot of my New Age beliefs. And I desperately wanted to be like all the other New Agers who were meditating into, you know, this enlightenment, which I thought would come. But I could never do it. My mind is just too active in that way where I can quieten it. It ends up making me frustrated and does not put me in a sense of calm. So the way that I can actually meditate is by doing artwork. I'm a bit of an illustrator, or doing, you know, all, yeah, you can't, yeah, piano, yeah, Judith is piano, Rochelle, exactly. You just have to find something where you can lose yourself in it. I find that's all it really is. It's about, see, meditating isn't actually focusing on a particular subject, which is what a lot of New Agers think it is. Oh, I meditated on this, or I meditated on that. That's not meditation then, because meditation is emptying the mind. If you have a look at the Buddhist definition of meditation and why they meditate, it's because they empty the mind, they calm the mind, silencing the mind. And so you really just have to find what it is that you can do that silences your mind. And so for me, it's crafting and, you know, artwork. That's how I quiet my mind. So yeah, I've been kind of indulging a little bit too much in the last 6 months, but it's been great. I enjoy it. And now I've just actually found a really good balance now between doing my crafting and doing this as well. And I couldn't be more pleased, actually, because I was feeling a little lost the last couple of months of the year. I really did have, I just didn't feel, I don't know what it was. We were discussing it. We've got an admin group for MeWe, and me and the other students were discussing, you know, just this feeling of something not being right, and just not feeling, of feeling kind of not grounded enough, or not, I don't know even how you could put it. I was just, yeah, I wasn't there, or whatever I was doing, it wasn't it. But now that I'm doing this again, I'm really feeling once again that I've got my mojo back, and I'm back, you know, doing what I should do. And I think that's what it was. I didn't know what I should do, because I didn't feel I wanted to keep doing the videos in the way I could do them. And that was my way that I could connect with you guys in that community. And so, yeah, it was a tough one. And so now I've found this balance, and I'm hoping that this is it, because I don't feel that way I was feeling just before Christmas. All right, so again, I'm tangenting off into another area. So lastly, so after we've gone to the 3 levels of the divine race, which is another Trinity, we have, the first, so out of each of the levels within the divine race, the gold, silver, and bronze, there's also a first emanation of each of those levels too. So that Trinity would be the first divine male and female of each of the levels of the gold, silver, and bronze. Now, I'm not saying that that is the full scope of the Trinity as a symbol. I'm sure the more you dig in, the more different, the more you will find with the Trinity that you can look in nature. I mean, there's even another one, like within the material kingdom, you've got your vegetable, your animal, and your mineral. Okay, so as it's one of those things with symbols, is that they just keep relaying knowledge. It's like an onion, you know, the more you peel back, the more you will uncover. And so, you know, just seek out more knowledge, guys. But that's pretty much the main elements of that symbol that I can bring to you right now. But I'm sure that there are plenty of other, because it will go down into the microcosm and the macro, you know, and it will fractal out and correspond into other areas as well. But these are the main ones I just wanted to bring to you today. So I'll actually copy and paste all of this this paper, this kind of what I read from, underneath the video, so you guys can kind of look to everything that I'm talking about now as well, and you'll have that. All right, so let's go into some of the verses and some of the confirmations we can find that will basically give us confirmations about why we know that the Trinity is more than just what the Christians are telling us. So let's start with the Christian symbol of the Trinity, which is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Okay, so the Holy Spirit is actually a symbol for the divine female. And we know this because the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Philip, okay, which is one of the Nag Hammadi Gospels, says that the Father and the Son are single names and the Holy Spirit is a double name. So the Holy Spirit doesn't only encompass the Christ-like and the divine intellect that works through the ether in the spirit, in the spiritual side of who we are, and our Christ within comes to us, and our Christ intelligence and knowledge, divine revelation comes to us through the Holy Spirit, which is basically uses the medium of the ether to be brought to us from the mind of the all, transferred through the spiritual realm into our intellects and hearts and souls. And so when I say intellect, heart and soul, and I mention soul in that way, I'm talking about the soul in your gut, okay, which is what your intellect is seated in, and then your heart basically is the mediator between your gut and your mind. And then if we look at some other information in relation to the divine female in the Christian symbolism being Mary, and that's also Mary Magdalene, even though they've tried to separate those symbols and then infer that Mary Magdalene was a whore. And Mary Magdalene was not the prostitute. There's nowhere in the scriptures that it says that she was. It's just that they try and infer that she was, okay? But she wasn't. She was another she was another apostle. Basically, the Nag Hammadi scriptures tell us she was Jesus's favourite, and Jesus and her had a close relationship where they actually were intimate. And so she is actually symbolic of the divine female, and Jesus is the divine male. Okay, so in the Nag Hammadi Gospels, which is why the Catholic Church dare not want you to look at the Nag Hammadi Gospels, and don't even look at the definition of Gnosticism, because it's absolute bullshit. They try and make out it's polytheism, and it's not. They are Christians. They are just early Christians before it was corrupted by the Catholic Church. So if I was to label myself something, when people say, well, what are you, Dee? I would probably label myself as a Gnostic Christian, because I am drawn to the Gnostic texts and the Christian texts, the unbastardized version of the Christian texts, but the earlier Christianity in its purest form, which was Gnostic Christianity, Gnosticism. So I do feel drawn to them, but I do actually like the Kabbalah as well. I feel very connected to that, and even some parts of Islam, really. So yeah, but I just kind of a little bit more over onto Gnostic Christianity, and probably because I've got European descent, and so it speaks to me in a way that I understand my language, in a language that I understand a lot better than perhaps the scriptures of the other races, because they probably speak to those who are part of that race on that level a lot deeper, which is why divine revelation was relayed to all the races in their own expression, because we are all a little bit different. We're the same, but we're a little bit different too. And so yeah, so We see that in Matthew 1:18-20, that Joseph, the son of David, said, "Do not be afraid to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit." Again, connecting her to the Holy Spirit, connecting the actions of the divine mind, the God the Creator, with the Holy Spirit working within Mary. And that was when he placed the seed within her when she was first created onto the ethereal plane from God, from the mind of God. And the first soul came out whole, and then the seed was within Mary, and then they split, and then they were birthed onto the physical plane. So you can see that there. Luke 1:35 also says, "And the angel said to her, the Holy Spirit will come upon you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. Therefore, the child will be to be born will be called Holy, the Son of God." Okay, again, Son of God, not God the Father, Son of God being born, birthed onto the physical plane through Mary, who was already impregnated as a soul with the seed of the demigod, the divine demigod. And then this I found from a guy called Karl Barth, who was a Swiss Protestant, 1927. He said, "She has been called the dove of God. The symbol wasn't used just to describe her purity and beauty, her gentleness and humility, but according to Shiban, precisely to indicate her similarity and intimate unity with the Holy Spirit. His symbol became her symbol." His symbol, God's symbol, the Holy Spirit, became her symbol. So she is also symbolized by the Holy Spirit, which takes us back to the Gospel of Philip, who says that the Holy Spirit is a double name. Okay, so you can see that there's two connections there. And this whole thing of the Catholic Church trying to make Mary, pure and beautiful and gentle and humility, and they do the same with Jesus. They elevate them to this level of perfection that can never be attained. But the fact of the matter is that the symbols for Jesus and Mary, the divine male and the divine female, are also part of the cycle that we exist in as a human race, that goes through the age of the golden age down into the iron age where we are now, and where we can tell no difference between the divine and the mortal. And the divine amongst us don't even know that they're divine. Nobody knows who they are, whether they're mortal or divine, until that time is upon us when the illumination occurs. And so to say that they're just pure and it's again the Catholic Church manipulating people, because if you have a look at Plato's story about the Atlanteans and how they fall, it says that they become debased, okay, as they fall, as they go through the ages, and the portion within them fades, okay, their divinity fades, they become debased. So they become mortal-like, and they act out mortal-like. So again, this whole idea of perfection is just rubbish. And it's how the Christian church in its form today, the Catholic Church in its form today, always keep their flock, their congregation, under control by making them believe that they can never attain perfection, that they're just sinners. They're born sinners, they're going to remain sinners, and that's pretty much why they try and elevate Jesus into this God status. And then it makes it easier to make him God the Father, because apparently he's perfect like God too. Even when he tells them, he literally says, "Why do you call me good? Because only God alone is good." They just ignore that one, or they make up some, twist it around into something that it's not. All right, so and then it says that in the Gospel of Philip again, and the Lord would have, right, now he's saying, he's telling Christians, don't be fooled into believing that the Son is the Father, because he says, "And the Lord would not have said, 'My Father who is in heaven,' unless he had another Father, but he would have said simply, 'My Father.' So he's basically saying that that Jesus has a Father in heaven who is not of earth, but who is not him as well. You know, like telling them that there is a difference between the Son and the God. And I mean, I would have thought it was really like plain to see. I just can't believe how manipulated and brainwashed the Christian congregation, the modern Christian congregation is in these days. Because, you know, the more I read it, you know, the verses, the more I realize, I just can't understand how they can't see that there is a separation between God the Son, the Son of God and God the Father. I mean, he says it all the time. But somehow they've allowed themselves to be convinced that he is God the Creator, God the Father. It's sad, really. It's really sad to see such a large group of people who have come so far in these times to still hold on to the fact that we do have a spiritual aspect to our creation, and yet fail so spectacularly by then being fooled into believing that the Son is the Father. Anyway, I could go on about that all day because it just really gets to me. Right, so then we have a passage from the Kolbrin Bible, the Egyptian texts of the Bronze Book, and this passage is very interesting because it basically goes on to explain the creation of the demigod. And so it says, about the days of none we have no knowledge. Before creation commenced, there was the one father-mother being, right? So saying that that God, the mind of the all, the God the Creator, is androgynous. And from this divinity came the heavenly twins, the male and female, divine male and divine female. And from these were born three. And then the three became many. Thus, even in the beginning, it was divinely ordained that brother and sister might be wed. So you know how in a lot of the ancient cultures, they think that there was incest happening because it was called the brother and sister were married. Like you get this a lot in the Greek mythology, and you get this in the ancient Egyptian mythology. Well, it's actually just denoting the divine male and the divine female being connected differently than mortal males and mortal females. So they almost are brother and sister because they're created from the same father, but then they're not. So it's kind of a little bit deeper than what most people can understand. But yeah, so that's why, you know, scriptures and parables are written the way they are, because they're not meant to be understood by shallow thinkers. They're meant to be contemplated on a very deep level. And so that kind of explains where the confusion between this incest and you know, the ancient cultures comes from. It wasn't, okay? It's literally talking about the divine male and the divine female, and ordained that the brother and sister might be wed. From the first heavenly twins were born those whose destiny it was to be eternally married. For theirs was the divine right of eternal and undying love, a love unknown to mortals, but to which, if they would be more than mortal, they must aspire. This love is the light of life, the light of earth, and the sun of the spirit. Now, it's not saying that the mortals can't be like twins. So mortals are twin souls as well. We all follow the same order of creation. But just think about fractals and the principle of correspondence. It just happens with them on a different level. So there is someone created for you, each of you, who is your other half. Whether you are with or find that other half, well, our destinies will always cross in every life, every incarnation. You'll see a lot of mythology about the red string. I think it's in the European mythology, and also I think there's a Chinese or Japanese mythology that talks about the red string of fate and how it two people, it entwines them, and they will always be connected, even though they will traverse the physical plane doing their own experiencing life in their own way, that there will be times that their paths will cross. Whether they identify that at the time, it's not always the case. Probably more often than not, especially in the lower ages when we're so brainwashed, probably not the case at all that we will end up with the other half of our soul. However, the other half of our souls exists and interacts on the physical plane in a way where, yes, their destinies will at times cross ours. I don't know how many times. I don't know. I suppose it all comes down to free will choice. Anyway, so mortals we all do have an other half. Okay, and yes, the twin flame is how it was all being discussed, and how I first heard of it was the twin flame. But it kind of, I think the whole twin flame thing was their attempt at controlled opposition. So it was their attempt to know that there was probably an awakening starting to happen around 2011, 2012. And so they put out this information so that people would be pushed down a certain path when it came to that information. And you'll find a lot of the twin flame stuff is really new agey. Okay, and a lot of new agey garbage goes with the twin flame stuff, So be careful of twin flame. I don't like to use twin flame, even though our twin flame does actually describe it very well, because it scriptures and mythology often speaks about the heart and the flame. And so that is a good symbol for our heart. Oh, look, and it comes up on the screen as I'm talking about it. The heart, the twin flame, the flame and the heart is a very connected symbol. And they would know that too when they're putting out this information to us as well. Another way that they can steer us down a false path. So that flame will never die completely. It might go right down to just a few little embers and it's hardly not there at all. But it's just like with the knowledge, like when we lose the knowledge, when we're completely ignorant of the knowledge, the embers just are really little embers, and they're just a light still. There's a little bit of glow there, and then, it goes back to a roaring fire again, but it never, ever goes out completely. They can never, ever, ever extinguish that flame. No matter how hard they try, they will never extinguish that flame. And so that is why the flame and the heart is a very, very special symbol, and it's very important, and it's true because it can kind of speak to the knowledge as well as your connection to your other half. All right. So that one from the Colburn Bible, I have to say, that is really telling us right there about the creation process of the divine male, the divine female, and the demigod. So it just sums it up. No wonder they tried to suppress the Colburn Bible so much, because as I've told you guys, Wikipedia even took that off. They did not want to even list that as one of their articles because they reckoned it wasn't authentic. Right, and then we can go to the Gospel of Thomas, and the Gospel of Thomas says, chapter number 30, where there are three deities, they are divine. Where there are two or one, I am with that one. Where there are three deities, they are divine. So you've got your male, your female, your demigod, your divine, divine, female, demigod. Sorry that I repeat myself over and over, but sometimes if it's just that when somebody comes onto the stream, I just want to be clear, because then I get people saying, but when you said this, or when you said that. So I just, I want to make it clear for people that join late what I'm talking about. So sorry if I seem repetitive to you guys. So where there are three deities, they are divine. Where there are two or one, I am with that one. So again, showing the divine portion, the Christ. He's talking about the Christ and how the Christ is within us all, and it's like a double meaning, like the Holy Spirit is a double meaning. The Christ is also a double meaning. So it can denote Jesus, the Christ, the main Christ, the first Christ, and it can also refer to the Christ within us all, our divine portion that we all carry. We all have the divine portion within us to a different degree. And again, I'm showing on the screen Jesus with the fishing rod, and he's throwing it down. Like, remember when I told you about the symbol of the anchor being thrown down onto the earth? And then that is the same type of symbol that we're talking about. So the chain of being, the chain of divinity that goes from highest to the most densest. Okay, so and probably some of the mortals that are being born now are very far from the divine mind there, and they probably have less of a ability to process the knowledge, but you know, they'd still have it. It just maybe mean that they have to work a lot harder, and they haven't been through as many challenges in life, which means that their sin would probably not be as heavy either, because they haven't had the ability through all the incarnations to create weight in their soul. So you know how it balances out, how I was telling you that Thoth the scribe, and how it symbolizes that organic process of weighing out our lives and our incarnations against our actions. Yeah, so that's at work with how I just discussed that too with the newer souls. And then the Zohar says, and the son is called the firstborn, and as it is written in Exodus 22, Israel is my firstborn son. And since he is called the firstborn, therefore it implieth dual offspring. And when he increaseth, his crown appear in 3 divisions, the Zohar. So again, saying that basically they always say that Jesus is the firstborn. They always relate that, but that why do you have to say that he's the firstborn if he's the only born? Now, I know there are some verses in the scriptures that talk about Jesus being the only one, okay, the only divine Son of God, but let's remember that the Catholic Church have had possession of those scriptures for 800 years, if not longer, and if you think that they haven't been making little edits where they see fit, then yes, you're very naive. So we have to realize that they have definitely edited parts of the scriptures, and that's why it's really good that you go back to the Nag Hammadi Gospels, because they were discovered in Egypt in the modern age, in our time, and so they haven't had time to edit these, okay? And so you can match these against each other. As I've said with the Gospel of Thomas, that's pretty much the book of Matthew. So that will help you understand what they've edited. Oh, sorry guys, I'm just getting a drink. Okay, so and then it gets more interesting. So it can be really confusing when you go into the genealogy within the scriptures. And so I try not to get too involved in that, because it really is a lot of white noise, okay? And you really, we need more information to have a better understanding of it. But basically in Matthew 1:1, the record of genealogy of Jesus the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham. So it's showing you a Trinity there, but it's also showing you, but hang on, I thought Joseph was the mortal father, or, you know, of Jesus, because wasn't he there with Mary at the manger? And now what? David? Abraham? So what I'm getting from this scripture here is the 3 levels of the divine male. You've got the first ever creation of the divine male, when he was first created onto the physical plane, aka Adam, okay? And then you've got the divine male that is now exists on the physical plane in the infinite cycle of incarnation and the great year. That's the symbol, David. And then you've got Jesus the Messiah, who's symbolizing the demigod, because little baby Jesus is also symbolizing the firstborn of his kind in the bronze of the demigod. So he's also the firstborn divine male at that level, and that is showing that he is, you know, the first as well. So they call him that kind of name Jesus can also apply to him. So some of these names you can see have double meanings. They've also done that to basically encode the truth. And we can also see the son of Abraham, the son of David, and Jesus and the Messiah as also gold race, silver race, bronze race. So again in Matthew 1:1. All right, and then we have some of the symbolic names. I thought I would just read out some of the symbolic names that we have for the firstborn divine male cross culture, okay, and cross theology. So we've got Jesus, of course, most well-known one. Thor, which is the Norse mythology. Nuada, which is the Teutha de Danann. Now, I absolutely love the legends and the mythology about the Teutha de Danann. There is so much information to be found in the Teutha de Danann, and I've noticed it's getting harder and harder to source that online. So that's something that I definitely recommend you guys have a research into, because what happened was when the crack happened halfway, because you know how every 12,000 years or 12,500 years or whatever, halfway through the great year, we experience a cataclysm that throws us from the golden age into the silver age. And so the silver age is still basically a heightened time of spirituality. The gods are still known amongst mankind. The divine is still known. They are still in possession of their gifts, of their divine gifts and skills, but to a lesser degree. And because everything gets thrown in turmoil, and the plates go, the continents go under, and then some plates, continents rise, everything is thrown into turmoil. And this is why we see a lot of knowledge from the indigenous cultures, like the South American, the Hawaiian, the Teutha de Danann is another one, where suddenly these people show up and they're gifted, and they teach them and they show them things, and they suddenly come and help them. All right, so this is when the divine race are displaced, okay, from their where they were living or whatever, and had to regroup and colonize. That's a horrible word in these times, isn't it? Let's not use it. Let's use settle, since that has such a negative connotation to it. So they had to settle in other areas, and of course they were welcome, because they're the divine, and they've got knowledge and they've got skills, and they can help build, because these skills, how do you think they build the pyramids? What about Petra in Jordan, where there's these laser cut temples and buildings, and this is the divine. These are the skill sets that the divine had. So of course they were welcomed into these places by these people, and so they wrote myths about them and legends about them. And this is the Teutha de Danann. The Teutha de Danann arrived from somewhere else and descended upon Ireland, and they loved them. The people that were already living in Ireland, and it wasn't probably called Ireland back then, who knows, but they loved them. They thought they were great, and they revered them, they honoured them, and they wrote stories of them. And so this is who the Teutha de Danann are. All right, so because there's a lot of misinformation, I've noticed people starting to say that they were fairies, and that they were connected to that type of mythology. And though I do believe that there are ethereal beings known as fairies and goblins and dwarfs, and I do very much believe that there is an ethereal side to our physical plane that we can't see, and that perhaps is more present to us at different times of the cycles. And now that we're in this more denser part of the cycle, no access to the Christ light in the way that it illuminates everything, we can no longer interact with that side. Now again, I don't have any information to back up what I am telling you here. It's something that just when you look from all the different cultures and you work out how everything kind of works and how we live on a physical plane, but there is also an ethereal plane that kind of we can't access at the moment, then it kind of does seem that would be the case. All right, so Apollo, Mars, Shiva, Buddha, Yabusu, which is Japanese, Saint John the Evangelist. So the 4 evangelists are connected to the 4 creatures, and they're all signifying the messiahs the male messiahs of each of the races. So the white race, the red race, the yellow race, and the black race. David, Abraham, tribe of Dan, and Yima, which is the Persian divine male. Dionysus, and then his alternate side is Bacchus. So Dionysus is when he's in the Golden Age, and Bacchus is when he's in the Iron Age. Horus, Ra, and Quetzalcoatl. And Quetzalcoatl was the South American symbol. A lot of information from South America too, and they are definitely one of the cultures that say that they didn't build the buildings that were there, and they were built by some of these great beings. And I actually do have a video about the legends and the mythology knowledge of the Peruvian elders, and that's very interesting because they talk about the return of the glowing ones, of the golden ones. And so yeah, that is definitely something very, very interesting, and that I would recommend you looking into. Right, now how long are we going? We've nearly been going 2 hours, 10 minutes. All right. Yeah, I start to feel when we're getting to that 2-minute mark, my voice starts getting a bit rougher, and I start, feeling feeling like I've been talking for 2 hours. Oh, okay. So I just wanted to leave you with this, guys, and I'll put this up on my my Pinterest account. I'm going to make a Pinterest account where I just put everything for the live streams, like all the diagrams and things that I have been discussing, or particularly symbolism, because I just want to cover in the last 10 minutes some of the symbolism that you guys can look at in regards to the Trinity. So we've got the Fool, the Magician, and the High Priestess, the first 3 cards of the Tarot, the Major Arcana. So if you go and check out the Rider-Waite tarot cards, the Fool is representing God, the Creator, and then you've got the firstborn male, and then from the firstborn male, then you've got the High Priestess. So following that order of creation that we were just talking about before. The other information that I wanted to discuss quickly is just to go and have a look at the Kabbalah Tree of Life. I will put down a link to the Tree of Life that I use. Okay, it's called Queen of Color, I think it's called, but it's the best one that I've found. It's very clear. Nobody's gone and made their own interpretations and added things to it and made changes. It's in its purest form. It's all color-coded. It's very easy to follow. So on the Kabbalah Tree of Life, if you have a look at the top 1, 2, 3, you'll see that it forms a triangle. Now, whenever you see a triangle pointed upwards, that's denoting the ethereal plane. Whenever you see iconography of God, you'll see and if there's a triangle present in that symbolic artwork, you will see that he has a triangle behind his head that points upwards. And that is denoting that he is in the ethereal plane. If you go and have a look at the bottom, you'll see number 7, 8, 9, and 10 form another triangle. Now that triangle is facing downwards, and that is denoting the physical plane. And if you actually add up 7, 8, 9, and 10, it equals 34. And 34 is symbolizing the physical plane. 33 symbolizes heaven, and 34 symbolizes hell, or the physical plane. Sometimes the physical plane is called hell. It's because it's the densest part of the material world as well. So when you have a look at some of the way it's related, 34 can be seen as hell. We are literally living hell right now, in my opinion. The way that the world is being controlled by the evil in control, it literally is hell on earth. But 33 is heaven, 34 is physical plane, and you'll see that that, you know, actually points downwards towards the earth. And now if you bring them together, the two triangles, you'll see that it forms the Star of David, okay, called the Star of David, and or the hexagram. And that's just basically not an evil symbol, not a Jewish symbol. It's an archetypal symbol because it's bringing the you know, the ethereal and the physical together. And you'll see this is also on the heart chakra, because we meet in the middle at the heart as well. And so that, if you translate that to the physical body, you can see that the top triangle is your intellect, which is held in the ethereal. So your mind is basically connected directly to the ethereal plane, more than any other part of your soul, okay, which is why you dream at night time. It's kind of you're in that between worlds when you dream, okay. And your bottom part of your, you know, body, your feet touch the earth, right, but your heart is where it intersects. And so, you know, I suppose I always say follow your heart, you know, let your heart guide. If you see the hermit, it's, you know, he is letting his heart guide. Now, letting your heart guide you is not letting your lust guide you, and it's not letting your delusions guide you, what you want to believe, your beliefs guide you, okay, because that can fool, you can be fooled by that. It's not easy to follow your heart. Following your heart, I suppose, is following truth, is just wanting truth and being true. So I would say following your heart is being in truth with who you are as a person, as a soul, and living your truth, regardless of whether that is opposed by others because they don't like what you've got to say, or what you believe, or what you think, because that actually, you know, works against their beliefs. And that's what you'll find. A lot of times people oppose you because you bring out in them their hypocrisy and their vices. They want to continue living in that. They don't want you to show them that that is not the right way, they're not the right path, because it's enjoyable. When you're living in vice, when you're immersing yourself in your carnal parts of your body, so from, say, just below the heart on the Kabbalah Tree of Life. I was going to post this under the video before I started the stream, and I forgot, because I wanted you guys to actually look at the Tree of Life, and I promise I'll do this for the next stream, and I'll just go through it a little bit with you. But if you want to go and find it on my Pinterest, I will put the link underneath afterwards, and hopefully you'll remember what I'm saying here, or you can listen back to it. But if you're living in that bottom that bottom triangle that's facing down, you're allowing your animal side, your beast side, your carnal side to control you on the physical plane, rather than living up the top part there, where it's your intellect, your higher mind that's controlling you and steering you through the physical life. Now, I always like to think of myself, I think it's a good analogy to think of yourself as a ship steering yourself through your physical experience, and all of the different paths before you are different streams, like tributaries, and you're steering you've got your rudder, and you're steering through the paths, like the streams where you want to go. And if you use your higher mind to guide you, to guide your boat, and you use that for your rudder, you will find the streams that take you to the better experiences, the more enriching experiences. And sometimes they're not enriching to start with, or while you're experiencing. Like, you may take this stream and it goes through this jungle that's got lots of like sharp things, thistles and things that are, you know, you got to avoid, and you know, creatures that aren't very nice that, you know, sting you and the whole thing. But when you get to the other side, there's this really beautiful waterfall, and there's food there that you can eat, and sustenance, and you know, it was worth it. So that's kind of how it works on the physical plane. You know, the higher path is usually the more difficult path, because it brings out our strengths in us, and that's what we're here for. We're here to tap into the strengths that we don't know we have until we're challenged. Because, you know, if we're always living a comfortable life, well, hell, we're never going to be challenged to find those inner strengths, because they're just given to us. So that's not what is conducive to having a enriching life. You need those struggles and challenges to tap into that inner strength that you have. And as I said, if you let your heart be your guide, as into the truth, the bringer of truth, you know, the truth seeker comes from the heart, you know, and that is where you live in truth, by truth, from truth. It's got nothing to do with the romantic version of what New Age people want to believe. You know, everything's always positive. I love everything. I love you. You know, I hate that when people say that to me, because it's like, it's just a hypocrite. Because, you know, you should not just bandy that word around to everybody. You know, you should leave that word love for when you really, truly mean it. Because it's just so misused in these times, and nobody really understands what love is anymore. They confuse it with this romantic version of what they think everything has to be, or lust. Anyway, all right, so I'm pretty much at the end of the stream now, guys. I've gone through everything. I hope I haven't bored you too much, because I know I've tangented off a little bit, and I'm a little bit tired too, so I know I've kind of, you know, haven't been so flowy today. My words haven't flowed as easily as normal. So yeah, I apologise for that if that's been a little bit, what should I say, distractive. Anyway, nice to see all the familiar faces again, guys. Great to have you here for the stream. Don't know what the next stream will be about yet. We'll have to consider that. If you guys have any ideas, or if you guys, you know, have something that you want me to discuss for the next stream, just comment on the video when it turns into a video, and you can comment on it. You know, have a think. Let me know what you think. You know, is there any symbols out there that you'd like to delve into a little more, and let's you know, kind of peel back the layers, and we can see what we can do with that. All right, well, I'm going to leave it here for now. I hope all you guys have a great day. Be well, take care, and as always, peace out.